KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California. Home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@kbla1580.com. That's advertising at kbla1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, we'll talk politics and more with our regular contributor, Connie Rice, who has now had time to review the decision yesterday by Judge Eileen Cannon, who dismissed the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump on the first day of the Republican National Convention. I'll leave it there for now. We're going to get into it in hour two. In our third hour, two more conversations. Up first, how do we take STEM and STEAM to the next level and cultivate the next generation of scientific, technological, engineering, and math leaders and thinkers? Known as the hip-hop MD, astronaut rock star award ambassador Maynard Orikari joins us live in studio at the top of hour three. On the B side of hour three, the 2024 MLB All-Star Game broadcast tonight on Fox, and I am thrilled to visit with baseball legend Dusty Baker, the most successful Black manager in the history of baseball. Dusty Baker on the backside today of hour three. But we commence today's show in this hour with two more conversations. On the B side of this hour, Black Republican Boyd Rutherford on that parade of Black folk last night at the RNC in Milwaukee. Did you see it? A parade of Negroes. They must have trotted out every Negro in the Republican Party last night. I mean, there were Black folks speaking last night I'd never heard of, and I cover politics every day. Say nothing of the Black congressman from Florida, Byron Donald, sitting next to Donald Trump in his family box last night and chatting at the former president, just chatting him up all night last night. So just a parade of Black folk last night at the RNC. We'll talk about that with the former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, a Black Republican named Boyd Rutherford, on the B side of this hour. That said, we commence today's show with the Black mayor of Tempe in the swing state of Arizona, Cory Woods. Mayor Woods, good to have you on today, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Tavis, thanks so much for having me on.
It's good to have you on. I should qualify. You are not a Republican.
I am not. I'm a Democrat.
Okay. I was being funny. I'm talking about black Republicans. I didn't want people to think you were a black Republican. Let me start by asking, when we think of Arizona, we don't think of a lot of black folk. How does a black man become the mayor of Tempe, Arizona to begin with?
So in my personal journey, I became the first black man ever to be elected to the city council back in 2008, first African-American period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I served on the council for 8 years from 2008 to 2016. And then in 2020, I made the decision to run for mayor, and at that point became the first African American to ever serve as mayor of this great city. So for me, I was fortunate to be able to blaze a path, but there were a lot of other people who clearly came before me in Tempe and the greater Phoenix area that allowed me to contribute in this fashion. And I, of course, looked to my parents, who were very, very active in the civil rights movement. My father worked for the National Urban League for nearly 20 years. So frankly, having people like that around at all times really instilled me with the sense of not just simply self, but of civic service. And so that's how I got into the political arena. Tempe is about, probably about 5% African American.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 9th largest city in the state of Arizona, and it's home to Arizona State University, the largest public university in the entire country. But I've been very fortunate for the last 4 years to lead this great community, and just started my second term about 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations on that. I was going there, so I'm glad you raised it. Congrats on that. So you did well enough the first time for them to vote you back in again. That speaks volumes about your tenure as mayor of the city of Tempe. Let me just ask, and I know this is a question that if I ask every black person in Arizona, there'd be a different answer. But when black people think of Arizona, we tend to think of Republican politics. We'll come to that. That's why I wanted to have you on. Arizona's a swing state, but you're a black mayor in the heart of that state. We're talking about Republican. We're talking about GOP politics there. But we also think of our Latino brothers and sisters. We don't think of African Americans having power, authority in a state like Arizona. So let me just ask you, what is black life like these days in Arizona? We also recall Arizona as the last state to ratify the King holiday as an official holiday. And people, as you recall, you may have been too young for this, but there are a lot of folk who boycotted the state of Arizona. I'm talking to Dusty Baker later in today's show, baseball legend. So there were a number of all-star games and Super Bowls. There were a lot of sporting events and others, concerts, who boycotted that state because Arizona was so lagging in honoring Dr. King and his national holiday. So what is black life like in Arizona these days?
Well, absolutely, and I really appreciate you pointing out that fact. I mean, the fact of the matter is Tempe at one point 60, 70 years ago was actually a sundown town.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very important part of our history that has to be talked about. We have made tremendous progress at that point. I mean, myself being, on the city council and as mayor, we have our first African-American woman ever elected to the city council right now, Ms. Burdetta Hodge, who's also a governing board member for the Tempe Union High School District. Mm-hmm. But as you talked about, there are people like Pastor Warren Stewart Sr., who frankly were the leaders of that movement to finally make the King holiday a state holiday here in Arizona. And those folks like Pastor Stewart are very much still around, very active in the church and very active in the civil rights community, still trying to make sure that they carry the torch for those very important issues. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important to point those out because, as you and I both know, many times people try to act like these things happened a long time ago, right, to the point where no one can remember it. But these things happened very much in my lifetime and a lot of other people's lifetimes. Yep. So, but living in Arizona right now, we are very much becoming a purple state and a swing state. We now have a Democratic governor, Democratic Secretary of State, Democratic Attorney General. And so we very much have a very balanced mix between Democrats and mm-hmm. Republicans. But being an African-American man, I mean, I'm one of 2 African-American mayors in the state. It's a very interesting experience. But I have found on a personal level that, through sort of work ethic and championing issues that our residents care about and people in this region care about, I've been very much able to appeal to black Arizonans in Tempe and in the region. But I've also been able to appeal to all folks living in this community and within the greater Phoenix area. So it's challenging at times, but I will say I feel like I have very much been fully embraced by this community.
You mentioned work ethic. That came up time and time again last night to the point of turning my stomach, not in the way that you referenced it, but I want to get your temperature, and we'll talk to Boyd Rutherford on the B side of this hour about these black Republicans always appealing to this notion of work ethic, as if they're the only ones whose parents told them to work hard and to be twice as good and to be responsible and to put God first. put God first. I just got tired of that narrative last night. But every black Republican who speaks gives that same narrative as if only they were told that by their parents. If only they worked hard. If only they put God first and pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, et cetera, et cetera. I digress for now. We're talking with the historic mayor of Tempe, Arizona, a swing state, Mayor Cory Woods, right now on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys.
Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet?
Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
Grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1904 $20 Gold Liberty coins have been found. These gorgeous 1904p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 500 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1904 Gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1904 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 120 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3083. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $75 value free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3083 now to secure your 1904p $20 Gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3083.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the historic mayor of Tempe, Arizona, Mayor Cory Woods. Arizona, as you heard the mayor say a moment ago, was once a quite red state, a staunchly red state back in the era of John McCain. And prior to it is becoming a more of a purple state these days. So it is a swing state this time around. And if you look at all of the prognosticators and their maps, they have Arizona on there. And many put it in the toss-up category. We shall see what turns out to be the final tally in Arizona come November. But I want to get Mayor Woods' take on that in just a moment. But he mentioned this notion of work ethic. I don't know if you saw the Republican National Convention last night. These are things I have to watch in part because of what I do every day. So I opted not to go to Milwaukee. But I'm pleased to be heard on WNOV right now in the great city of Milwaukee. But I, of course, watching this every night with great detail, in great detail. And last night, you know, if you saw it, you saw this parade of black people come out last night. I mean, black person after black person after black person. I always love how even the networks get caught up in finding the black folk in the audience. And you got, 8 or 10 black folk in the audience, but they somehow search them out like a heat-seeking missile. They find them Negroes in the audience, and they keep putting the camera on them all night long. I laugh at it every 4 years at the RNC. So last night was no different. But they had this parade of speakers last night. As I mentioned, Byron Donald sitting next to Donald Trump in the box last night. This black man chatting up the president all night long. So clearly last night was about making this appeal to black voters, putting this notion of diversity and inclusion, as they defined it, out front last night, front and center for the nation to see. We shall see again whether or not that appeal actually worked. That said, Mayor Woods mentioned a moment ago this notion of work ethic, and he has a strong work ethic. You can't not have a strong work ethic when your father and your mother have raised you well, and your father worked for 20 plus years at the National Urban League, as he said a moment ago, and you become the first African American on the city council, and then you become the first African American mayor. Clearly, there's work ethic behind that, but he's a Democrat, and it kills me. It cracks me up when these Republicans stand up and they appeal to this notion of work ethic and doing your best and being responsible and going to school and being an upstanding citizen. I mean, all of those tropes you get all the time. And every time they say it, the overwhelmingly white Republican audience goes crazy with applause, again, as if these Negroes are the only ones who played by those rules, the only ones who listen to their parents in terms of the laundry list of things that we need to do to be successful in this black skin. So here you come talking, Mayor Woods, about work ethic. When you hear black Republicans offer that kind of narrative, how does it strike you? Because obviously you can tell how it strikes me.
Well, I think what needs to be said, and I know you're clearly talking about it. The fact of the matter is, work ethic is not something that is the sole. That is solely held by one political party. And the reality is, my parents were both registered Democrats. My father was 85 years old and still very much walking around. But those were the people that taught me about work ethic and just frankly ethics in general every night in our home and at the dinner table. I mean, my mother was a teacher in New York City public schools for over 30 years. She was a social worker in Indiana for about a 3-year period when we lived there. Mm-hmm. My father, obviously, I talked about with the National Urban League, and frankly working as the first, assistant vice president for cultural diversity for the American Lung Association nationally. So, these were folks who I saw get up, go to work every morning, put food on the table and clothes on the back of my brother and myself, and they frankly instilled me with that kind of work ethic, but they also have very progressive values when it comes to their personal politics. So the fact of the matter is, it's not just simply a Republican value to have a strong work ethic. That's sort of an American value. It's a value of Democrats. It's a value that African Americans have, and it's a value that a lot of people have. But it is not simply the sole domain of one political party. I think that's frankly crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the image you get when you watch the first night of the RNC, as I did last night. You mentioned Arizona is becoming more of a purple state. I wanted you on to talk specifically about that, given your historic nature as a black mayor in the state of Arizona, Tempe to be exact. So tell me what's been happening in Arizona politics that's turning the state a little less red and more purple. What's happening?
I think largely what's happening, there are a couple of things. I mean, I think you've got, with the growth of a lot of the universities, you have a very kind of progressive population that's come in and begun to demand a lot of change when it comes to some of the statewide policies that Arizona had been traditionally known for back in the day. I think you have a tremendous growth in the Latino population in this community that really had a lot of concerns about, SB 1070 that was signed, by a former governor back in 2010. That really was from my perspective, a racist policy. People called it the show me your papers policy. And there are a lot of those folks, who were Latinos who were adults at that time, but also younger Latinos who remembered the terror and the havoc that was wreaked upon them and on people who looked like them in their communities, who I believe have now, become adults and are very much active, not just in the political world, but the business world and the nonprofit world and all of those worlds, who are beginning to really speak up and make sure that they're having their voices heard, and they are changing the trajectory and the complexion of a lot of the politics around here when it comes to really beginning to balance things out. So I believe that it really is just, there's also a tremendous influx of other people moving into the state of Arizona that weren't here before, that are bringing with them very different perspectives and many times more progressive politics. So I think that some of those factors combined are what really is contributing to Arizona becoming less of a red state and much more so of a purple swing state.
Clearly, immigration is an issue on the political docket this year. Joe Biden moved to his right to accommodate calls for something to be done about immigration. So in that regard, he really kind of stole a page out of Donald Trump's playbook on the immigration issue. And there are many in the Latino community that were none too happy with that decision by the president, even as others understood, practically speaking, he had to do something about what's happening at the border. I raise that again because we know that immigration is going to be a theme this time around. It was mentioned last night. Donald Trump closed the borders before, and he'll close our border again. You got all those kinds of commentary last night. So clearly, again, immigration is on the docket this time around. I don't know that it's a decisive issue for most voters, but it's going to be discussed time and time again between now and November. That said, this is a conversation that black people tend to be on the outside of. I discuss this issue, here and there on our program for obvious reasons, but it's not an issue that we are at the epicenter of unless it's something like Haiti, and we see, Border Patrol officers on horseback sort of beating and whipping and getting in the face of Haitian immigrants. So then black people jumped in that conversation, but this tends to be an issue of our brown brothers and sisters. I raise that only because I'm curious as to how a black mayor in Arizona navigates the immigration issue. How do you talk about the issue of immigration as a black man, as a black mayor?
From my perspective, it comes down to we have to make sure that we are fighting injustice in every corner of this state and, frankly, of this country. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about regressive immigration policies or things that dehumanize or vilify a certain group of people based on horrible, terrible stereotypes. I mean, I think, frankly, we as black Americans who've experienced racism over, over the entirety of this country's history, I think we need to make sure that we are standing alongside, our Latino brothers and sisters and people who seek to disenfranchise and marginalize and vilify them, to make sure that we are also standing up to make sure that our voices are heard in that fight. We have a deep history as black Americans of supporting civil rights and supporting equal rights for all people. And I think this is an issue where we probably have to step forward even more to make sure that our voices are heard on what is a critically important, probably a top 3 issue in this year's election.
I want to play for you now before I lose you. I got about 5-6 minutes here. So I want to play for you a clip from President Biden's conversation last night with Lester Holt. There was a lot of stuff going on last night. Of course, the Republican convention had its first night. And President Biden, his campaign, they're not stupid. So they wanted to make sure they didn't get lost on the first night. They have to cede these 4 days to the Republicans. We head toward Thursday night when Donald Trump gives his big speech. You probably saw Donald Trump showed up last night. Didn't speak last night, but showed up with a bandage on his ear. And so that was all the talk last night. But President Biden sat for an interview with Lester Holt last night. He's doing a number of conversations, again, trying to turn the tide, trying to tamp down all this talk about him being pushed off the ticket. Stories were breaking yesterday that while Democrats are at least smart enough, I said on this program yesterday, Mayor Woods, that I think the president may have gotten a reprieve given what happened to Donald Trump, the shooting over the weekend, and the judge yesterday throwing out the classified documents case. I thought the president may have gotten a reprieve. That is to say, Democrats would not publicly be pressing him in this particular moment to surrender his slot at the top of the ticket. But we saw some breaking news stories yesterday that pressure is still being applied, but it's being applied even more aggressively, but privately. We'll talk about that with Connie Rice in the second hour of this program. But the president last night sat for a conversation with Lester Holt. Got a little testy at times. He pushed back on Lester, popped off a couple times. Kendrick Lamar said sometimes you got to pop out and show him. He popped out last night a few times. The president did. But here's a clip right quick of the president talking about being asked about turning down the heat of political rhetoric in this campaign season. Here's President Biden last night talking to Lester Holt of NBC.
It's taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced.
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all the, actually I guess, suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested and sentenced to go to jail because of what happened in the Capitol. I'm not out there making fun of, like, remember the picture of Donald Trump when Nancy Pelosi's husband was hit with a hammer, joking about it?
This doesn't sound like you're turning down the heat, though. You've talked about
no. Look, what I'm turning down, we have to stop the whole notion that there are certain things that are contrary to our democracy that we're for. The idea of saying that I didn't win the election, when every court in the land, I don't know, 20 appeals said, and including this conservative Supreme Court, said we won. The idea of having a loyalty pledge from all the folks who are in a Republican MAGA, not all Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, saying that, no, we lost the election, inflaming the people to say,
So what can you and what...
So I'll give you more clips from that conversation last night between Lester Holt and the president in our second hour with Connie Rice. Let me just tell you right now, I did not like Lester's interview last night. I like Lester Holt, decent friend, never done anything to me, but I did not like his interview last night with the president. And I'll tell you why in the second hour. I'll just kind of tiptoe toward it right now. I'm tired of these journalists who feel the need to play the games of both sidesism. And Lester, I think, did that in the worst way last night. I like Lester, but I hated that interview with the president last night. I didn't like the way Lester went at that. Again, I'll tell you more about it in the second hour with Connie. But I got 2 minutes left here, Mayor. I want to come to you. I want to just give the audience some sound from last night and get your take in the last 2 minutes very quickly here on the political rhetoric that is run amok right about now, and how, as a Democratic mayor, we know the president talked to a bunch of governors a week or so ago, but as a Democratic mayor, how are you feeling about your candidate? 2 minutes for you, sir.
I think the main thing that I could gather that President Biden was trying to talk about last night was, clearly he has denounced the assassination attempt on former President Trump, and he has said, look, in this country, we solve disputes and policy matters at the ballot box and not with bullets. So he's been very, very clear that to denounce exactly what happened to the former president and made sure that he wished him well and wished him a speedy recovery. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think what he was clearly trying to get at was when you have someone, though, in the past who has also contributed to a lot of this rhetoric and talking about mocking, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi's husband when he was hit in the head with a hammer, the conversations that have happened in terms of we live in the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection, well over 3.5 years ago. Yeah. And frankly, we've got folks here locally who are local folks with our Board of Supervisors, many of which are Republicans who are actually retiring from their seats because of all of the blowback they've gotten for simply trying to conduct free and fair elections and for trying to certify elections, which people have said, was the 2020 election, which was the safest and most, kind of reputable election ever in country history. So
I've got just 15, 20 seconds left here. Is Joe Biden your guy?
Yes, I'm supporting the president.
Okay. I appreciate that, Mayor. Good to have you on. We'll do it again now that the nation knows, this audience knows, there's a black man who's running things. There's a new sheriff in town. He ain't that new. He's in his second term now. But he's the relatively new sheriff in town in Tempe, Arizona. He's a black man. He's the mayor. His name is Cory Woods. Mayor Woods, congrats on that second term, sir. An honor to have you on the program. We'll do it again between now and November, I hope.
Thank you, Tavis. Appreciate the time today.
Good to have you on. Stay strong. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Extreme dangerous heat continues to impact a number of states today, especially on the East Coast. Tens of millions of Americans will experience 90-plus degree temperatures, including in the New York City area, where there are heat advisories and warnings in place. Records could be broken in other East Coast cities like Washington, D.C., which could reach over 100 degrees today. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott says it's a miracle Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt Saturday. The African-American senator said a devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back on his feet. Scott also rallied against President Biden, claiming Biden is asleep at the wheel. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit Allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. Olympic men's basketball team held on for a 6-point win over Australia in an exhibition game. Lakers center Anthony Davis had Team USA's best performance with 17 points and 14 rebounds in just 18 minutes. Somebody is not telling the truth regarding the decision last week to drop Kawhi Leonard from the Team USA roster. Clippers general manager Lawrence Frank said Monday the team is very disappointed. Leonard was sent back to L.A. after just 3 workouts with the team in Las Vegas. USA basketball director Grant Hill said it was a mutual decision between USA basketball and the Clippers to send Leonard home. Concerns were mounting that Leonard was having problems again with his right knee. Dodgers center fielder Teoscar Hernandez won Major League Baseball's home run derby last night. He's the first Dodger to win the title in the event's 39-year history. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Get immersed in new worlds and ideas with Audible. Explore an incredible selection of audiobooks, podcasts, and originals, all in one easy app. There's more to imagine when you listen. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000.
Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief took care of Eric's problem.
And now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs.
Picking up! Oscar!
A violent crime is committed every 24 seconds.
The U.S. Concealed Carry Association exists to provide you with firearms education, training, and access to self-defense liability insurance, so when trouble comes, you'll be ready. Over 800,000 Americans trust the USCCA, and right now, there's an exclusive, limited-time offer for radio listeners. Go to defendfamily.com to get a free family defense guide, a survival secrets training video from a retired FBI agent, and see all the benefits of membership. Go to defendfamily.com now.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Republican Boyd Rutherford, black Republican. We're pleased to have him on this program. I mentioned earlier, in case you did not see the RNC last night, there was a parade of Negroes, a parade of black folk last night at that podium. Black folk that I'd never heard of. So clearly there was an agenda last night with all these black speakers on night one of the convention. And Byron Donald, the black congressman out of Florida, seated next to Donald Trump in the box last night and chatting up the former president all night last night. So I'm pleased to have Boyd Rutherford on this program. In a moment, I'm going to give you just a second to give you some sound from some of the black folk. You ready, Miles? Some sound last. Well, let me do this first, and then I'll pull up former Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford in a second here. So let me start with. I think I want to go to Tim Scott first, Miles. Here's some sound last night of the black senator from South Carolina who ran against Donald Trump unsuccessfully, was on the big list at one point to be a running mate, did not make the short list, but he went all in last night for Donald Trump. Here's some sound from Tim Scott.
Are you ready for 4 more years of Donald Trump? Oh, me too. Listen, if you didn't believe in miracles before Saturday, you better be believing right now. Thank God Almighty that we live in a country that still believes in the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega. And our God still saves, he still delivers, and he still sets free. Because on Saturday, the devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back up on his feet and he roared. Oh yeah, he roared. Yeah, yes he did.
That Negro went all in last night. I mean, he went all in. And it would be laughable if it weren't so serious. But the God stuff, let me just be clear. I am a devout follower of that first century Palestinian Jew named Jesus. That's my faith tradition. I'm a believer. And yet it does something to me when I hear these black Republicans last night do the God thing. That the devil showed up and God saved Donald Trump. They invoke God when, where, and how they want to, but they don't practice very many of his principles. But they love that invocation of God saving Donald Trump from the devil. I digress on that. All right, Miles, give me Mark Robinson. This is Mark Robinson, the Lieutenant Governor. We're talking in a moment to the former Lieutenant Governor, black Republican Boyd Rutherford of Maryland. But this is the current Lieutenant Governor, a black man named Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor right now in the state of North Carolina. So Tim Scott, South Carolina. Here's Mark Robinson. I don't know what's wrong with Negroes in the Carolinas, but that was Tim Scott from South Carolina. Here now, Mark Robinson from North Carolina.
As governor, I will not forget where I came from or the struggles of the people I meet. And you know, there's someone else who will fight just as hard for you. President Donald J. Trump. The brave heart of our time, President Trump, had our economy roaring. Gas was up below $2. Unemployment was at a historic low. People could afford homes. And we had a president who protected manufacturing jobs. Under President Trump, the American dream was alive and well. under President Trump, there was hope. And we need that now more than ever. So this November, let's select the braveheart of our time, Donald J. Trump, to get our economy back on track, restore the American dream, and make America great again. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
So now Donald Trump is a braveheart. Again, that's Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor, Black Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, now running, as you heard, to be governor. He's the nominee for the Republican Party to be governor in the state of North Carolina. Just two of the many black voices we heard last night at the podium in the RNC. Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, good to have you on this program as a black Republican. Tell me how you think I and my audience should process all these black folk we saw last night at the podium. On the one hand, I'm grateful that black folk are in play in this election. On the other hand, not so thrilled about what many of them had to say last night. But how do you think we should read all these black folk at the podium last night?
Well, thanks for having me on. I think you should look at it from a standpoint that there's diversity of opinion in every race. There's diversity of opinion in position, particularly in the black community for a long time. The media and some who have an interest in keeping everybody in one basket have portrayed the black community as monolithic, and we're not. We have different experiences, different positions, different, ideology, and that's what you saw for some folks last night. And there's a difference between Tim Scott and Robinson out of North Carolina. Those are two different people in terms of their philosophies. Some of the things that Robinson has said, Lieutenant Governor Robinson has said, is, on the extreme side, I'd put it that way. So that's what I think people should see.
So I think what I hear you saying is that just as and you're absolutely right about this. We concur. We agree that black folk are not a monolith. But I hear you saying something a little different than I've heard from most other black Republicans, and I'm glad you went there. And that is that just as black people are not monolithic, neither are black Republicans. That there are degrees and gradations in philosophies, even of black folk inside the GOP. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, and and I would say it's the same with probably the Latinos as well as whites. There's going to be diversity of opinion. You talk about moderates versus conservatives versus MAGA. Yeah, that's all in that tent. So, and there's some people that are going to follow along, and there are going to be others who are going to say, well, I'm not too sure about that.
I mentioned that you are the former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. I just had Michael Steele on this program a few weeks ago. Michael Steele, of course, former Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, I know you do. Michael was the first African American to be Lieutenant Governor, and years later they get Boyd Rutherford years later. So kudos to the state of Maryland for giving black people opportunities politically and beyond. But that said, because again you are the former Lieutenant Governor. This is a few years ago. I'm curious as to how, over the years, your view of your party has changed. I don't want to call it much more than that, but how has your view of your party changed since your time as Lieutenant Governor?
Well, the party has moved much more towards a populist party from what it was previous to that under, the Bushes and Reagan, and even going back further than that. And so it has changed. There's still elements that, I feel much more comfortable with. I'm much more fiscal conservative. The foundational elements in terms of the social issues, I'm a little bit more libertarian. I think it's much more up to the individual. But there's been a shift in the party, and we'll see. All parties go through an ebb and flow. The Democratic Party is different than it was when I was a kid. It's very different, and so there are ebbs and flows in all of this, and and more, you're seeing more and more people move away from both parties and either be independent or undeclared, as some states have.
I asked that question in part, and we'll talk about it more when we come forward here in just a second. I asked that question in part because your party has shifted dramatically, and you're right, Democratic Party ain't what it used to be. We can talk about that. No fear there. But your party has changed dramatically. I mean, Donald Trump has just this party on lockdown. And his selection yesterday of J.D. Vance as his running mate, who is in lockstep with him ideologically, makes it clear that for the foreseeable future, if J.D. Vance is the future of the party, it ain't going to turn back to the party that you recognize for all the years you've been in it. So it's not just that this is not just an ebb and a flow. With the selection of J.D. Vance, it's clear to me that the party is not anytime in the near future going to return to the grand old party that it used to be. We'll talk about that. We'll get your take on Donald Trump and more when we come forward with the former Republican, the black Republican Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Boyd Rutherford, who you're listening to right now, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
KBLA Talk 1580 is now celebrating 3 years of amplifying our voice and uplifting our community. We deeply appreciate your support of this radio station and will always do our level best to earn your support. Here's to many more years of loving and serving our community. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
I know it's gonna happen without you.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PATH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PATH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PATH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, the former black Republican Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Boyd Rutherford, who I'm pleased to have on this program. In case you've just tuned in, we're talking about the future of the Republican Party and all these black people last night that we saw paraded out on stage. Clearly, there was an agenda last night to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 black people all featured last night. It was clearly Donald Trump sending a message to black voters with all these black people speaking on the opening night, no less, of this convention. I sat last night watching it, Boyd Rutherford, wondering how the good white folk in the audience felt about this last night. You trotting out all these black people on night one. You trotting out Amber Rose on night one. I'm thinking of all these dyed-in-the-wool white conservatives, how they're processing all they got on the first night. And I ain't got to the Union speech last night, how that put them on their heels last night. It was a gamble. It was a gamble for Donald Trump last night. But you see, again, like or loathe Donald Trump, he's a maverick. This is his convention. He rolled that first night out like he wanted to roll it out, with black people and Amber Rose and the head of the Teamsters And a lot of that, I suspect, necessarily didn't feel so good or fit so well with a lot of the white folk in that audience. But this is Trump's convention. He knows what he's doing. He's making a play for the union vote. He's making a play for the Teamsters. He's making a play for black voters. I'm glad to see us in play. I just don't like their policies. That's another conversation for another time. My question, though, back to what you said earlier was, my question is whether or not you think your party has any hope or chance of returning to what it once was, given his selection of J.D. Vance, and he is in lockstep with Donald Trump on this MAGA agenda.
Yeah, I think I would say yes. I'm always optimistic. I think, like I said, there are ebbs and flows. I think more so there's a challenge to the party structure, period, not just the Republicans, but the Democrats as well. You're seeing more and more people push away from either party.
Yep.
I think there's going to be more of a demand that those who are not members of one of the two parties or party at all to be able to vote in a party primary. Many states, I think there's somewhere like 22 states allow for that. They either don't have a party registration requirement and you can select which primary you want to vote in, or they just allow independents to vote in a primary. And I think we're going to see more of that. And I think that will bring people back to the center because it means that the politicians, particularly in Congress, have to appeal to a greater group of people than just their hardcore base that turn out in the primaries. And we wouldn't have probably the two candidates that we have now where 70% of the public doesn't really want them.
No, I take your point. Yesterday on this program, Cornel West, independent candidate for president, popped in the studio. He was in L.A. campaigning yesterday. We tracked him down and got him to come in the studio yesterday. And I hear your point about independence and about the whole party apparatus, this duopoly. This binary choice that we have, Republicans and Democrats. I think you're right. Over time, that is going to change. And if it doesn't change, I think you see people just fall out of the process who don't want to participate. So it's a danger to our democracy. Any way you look at it, our remaining moments with the former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Boyd Rutherford, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in our climate justice campaign partner, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., as we celebrate the grand unveiling of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Join us for a green and healthy festival with free food, planting activities, tree adoptions, nature walking tours, Zumba, yoga, sound baths, and more. It's summer, time to get outside. We look forward to seeing you at the dedication of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr. and KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga. My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley with 3 minutes left in conversation with the former black Republican Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Boyd Rutherford. The day after, we saw this parade of black speakers last night at the RNC in Milwaukee. So, Boyd Rutherford, we talked earlier about the fact that your party is not the party that it once was. You made the case, and I think you're right, that these things ebb and flow. The Democratic Party is not what it used to be. And I've had conversations on this program about what the Democratic Party looks like post-Joe Biden. Whether Joe Biden gets kicked off the ticket or remains the nominee, whether he wins or loses, clearly the Democratic Party has a reckoning afoot for what it's going to look like in the coming months and years. In the 2.5 or so minutes I have remaining, give me your thoughts specifically on the penultimate question, and that is where, as a black Republican, you stand on Donald Trump. We know where Tim Scott and Byron Donald and Mark Robinson and all the other speakers who were black last night, we know where they stand. But what does Boyd Rutherford stand on Donald Trump as no longer the presumptive nominee, but indeed the official nominee of your party, sir?
Right. He was never my choice. Dating back to 2016, I didn't support him then. I didn't support him when he ran for re-election, and I don't support him now. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I just feel I'll probably skip that line at this point, but I am not going to vote for him.
So what is it? I'm not asking your choice. That's your, unless you want to tell me. That's your prerogative, and you're right, and it ought to be private unless you want to make it public. I respect that. But what does a frustrated black Republican do when Donald Trump is not his choice and neither is Joe Biden? What do you do?
Hey, you advocate for change. That's you advocate and agitate for change, and I think part of the change is allowing non-party affiliates to vote in the primaries. I think that's one way to prevent having people that you don't care for or don't agree with be a flag bearer. And I throw the same thing to a Democrat. What do you do when you have a situation where you have a nominee that you don't necessarily support, and you're just going along because he's the party person, but not the person that you would want.
Yeah.
So you got to advocate for change.
Yeah, but that is,
you think about it. The taxpayer, all taxpayers pay for these parties. They pay for these primaries.
Yeah.
But in many cases, a third of the taxpayers are excluded from the primaries.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this: the conundrum that you find yourself in as a Republican is not a conundrum that many Democrats don't find themselves in simultaneously. So, as somebody once said, we feel your pain, sir. We feel your pain. His name is Boyd Rutherford, former black Lieutenant Governor, Republican Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland, who I've been pleased to have on this program. Mr. Rutherford, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service, sir. Good to have you on this program.
Thank you. You take care.
Likewise. More of Tavis Smiley. We're going to get into it now with our regular contributor, Connie Rice, when we come forward on this program.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Extreme dangerous heat continues to impact a number of states today, especially on the East Coast. Tens of millions of Americans will experience 90-plus degree temperatures, including in the New York City area, where there are heat advisories and warnings in place. Records could be broken in other East Coast cities like Washington, D.C., which could reach over 100 degrees today. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott says it's a miracle Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt Saturday. The African